I think the relationship between non-natives and natives here on campus is pretty normal. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say there's any animosity towards each other, or I think everybody finds their own clique when they get here, their own niche. And you've got, you know, the hippie kids, the rich hippie kids who want to be the dirty hippie kids. You've got your typical white girl, haha, you know, and then so bad.
Typical white girl, haha.
And then you've got, you know, your natives who are very into their culture and they embrace that in their daily life. And then you've got the natives who the only thing they know about it is that they have native blood in them. So, which is unfortunate.
結構もちろん白人とノンネイティブの人とネイティブの人が普通に楽しそうにしてるっていうこともいっぱいもちろんそれもあるんですけど、でもやっぱり白人同士とネイティブ同士がやっぱり多いというか、結構その組み合わせがあるかなという感じもしなくはないです。やっぱりなんだろう、無意識的なのかな。
I definitely have more non-native friends. I think there's an element of comfort as far as approaching somebody who is more familiar to me and like myself, as opposed to trying to approach something that I'm not as used to.
I have more non-native friends. It's not by choice. I think it's just by I feel like people seem to assimilate with other people similar to themselves. Whenever I do see Native Americans, like more often than not, they're always with other Native Americans, and it's nothing, I think, that would just be random. I just don't have many.
I feel like the relationship is always a little weird because, like I said, I probably don't have a lot of Native American friends because they all hang out together. So, I don't know if I can hang out with them. So, it's always a weird relationship.
That I sometimes wonder, sometimes I feel like they are kind of, or maybe to ask, are you resentful to, I guess, white people in general? Because I know in their history they've had, complete desolation of their culture and people because of, the whites that came over to this country.
I think the one thing about that is that I was more comfortable with my own kind of people. Yeah, with my people, with my tribe, because I think the one thing where I was comfortable with them, was that because I think the atmosphere and also the way they behave, where it would be kind of similar with me, where with the way they behave and also just get to know them, get to know people around.
I got more Native American friends because I was always on the reservation, went to school on the reservation, all my schools were on the reservation, so that's all I knew. It's just easier to talk to them. I'll go up and ask what tribe they're from, and just start a conversation like that.
I don't know, I really don't hang out with any non-natives. I usually hang out with natives, I guess, now. But, when it comes to time where you need to talk to other people instead of your own crowd, I think you could see a huge difference because you have to talk to them and not the way you talk to your native friends. I don't know, there's some words you can't really say around non-natives and jokes you can't say, but you have to be like this.
I took an AIS 110 with Dr. Boxer last fall.
Was that
Native American Indigenous. It's just an intro class.
No,
How many native versus non-native kids were in the class?
I'd say it was definitely mostly Native kids. There was probably, I don't know, 8 of us who weren't out of, I don't know, 25. Those are just guesses. Or 30, I don't know. I don't know. Definitely there were times where I felt judged. Like, why are you in this class? You're like, is this just entertainment for you? I felt that sometimes, just that, you know, white kids are privileged and we have it all made up, and that and it's true that most of us don't go through the challenges that many individuals on reservations do. But at the same time, there was also an acceptance and an open-mindedness that I received from a lot of the Native students in the class.
Just playing basketball, high school, we'd always go to like a school way out in the middle of nowhere, like just white people, and those guys get real. They're like real racist towards Native Americans.
Did they say something to you guys?
Yeah, they say a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I don't know. It'd be like, go back to the reservation, or call us like different names and stuff like that.
I used to live in Albuquerque, and we were buying headlights, and this person told us that it was too much and if we can afford it. And I think it had to do with us being natives, because she was saying it was gonna cost $80, and if we had enough money to buy it. And we did have enough money to buy it, and I don't understand why she had to say that. Kind of like single us out from, because the other customers there they weren't asked that question. So sometimes having those experiences kind of just make us stronger, but for people that can't handle it, they go out drinking to forget it. And I see, like, in the older people, the ones who just drink, I think they do that because they probably miss how it was before this whole assimilation and colonization thing.
As I was growing up, and from middle school and some part of high school, I was kind of embarrassed of my last name because of kids would always tease me about my last name, and they would always make jokes about it, like, oh, you're talking too slow, you shouldn't, or I kind of talk a little bit fast, and they would always say, oh, your last name shouldn't be a slow talker, it should be a fast talker, or what kind of name is that, and why would your parents name you a slow talker, and just stuff like that would make me feel embarrassed about my last name. Like, there was a point where it kind of really got to me, and I, like, asked my mom if I could change my last name because I was getting teased about it. But after a while, like, after I talked with my mom and, my other family about our last name, and they told me about the history of our last name and where it came from, and how my great-great-grandfather got the last name from a white person who, because our family would talk kind of like a shy voice and kind of like a slow, because he was barely speaking English, so when he was speaking English, he would talk really slow, so the white guy nicknamed my great-great-grandfather, a slow talker. After a while, like, knowing more about my history background and my family background, I found out, my my grandfather's older brother was a Navajo code talker, and I did a little bit more research about him. I mean, I wasn't he wasn't alive when I could meet him, so I did a essay about him, about the Navajo code talkers when I was in high school, and I learned more about him. And he was one of the original 29 code talkers, and he had our last name, and our last name was in the books, and he brought so much to our last name that it meant something. It meant something more than it has a lot more meaning to it than, and then I kept on telling myself, why should I be embarrassed of my last name? Why was I even embarrassed? But now, I take my last name as with so much pride and honor, because there is so much to it that most people don't understand.
I hear more cultural jokes from some other people than some other jokes. Maybe, I don't know, but as far as what I think is, if I didn't say I was a native, they probably wouldn't make those kind of jokes to me. I'll probably slip out from them once in a while, but I don't think they would have said stuff like that to me. I know they still joke around with me, but it's more of personal kind of jokes, or inside jokes, or again, size different jokes.
There is, I don't know if this stereotype is still around today, but I don't know if people think that Native Americans, or I don't know if you should say Indians, so they know, they realize, oh, Indians are people who hunt buffalo or live in teepees and wear feathers or something, I don't know, but no, that is a stereotype that is not really, no, it's not true anymore. And that stereotype is just one tribe. That's just based off one tribe, and a lot of other tribes are very different and have different things that they do, so.
It hasn't been terrible, but there has been the person here, the person there that just groups us all together, and it takes, you just take the time, you're patient with them, and you explain that it's not the case that there are different tribes. It was the whole United States. It was not just the United States, it was Canada, it was Mexico, it was Central and South America. And all of them have indigenous populations. And they had their own distinct flavors. Like I said, the Apaches and the Navajos, they live so close together and they share so many things, but then they're so different in so many ways as well. And just because we're so close and we're often classified as the same language group and things, and we're classified as the same, regional area, it doesn't mean we're the same.
Some people would probably agree, we don't really like to be called, Indians or Native Americans or anything that the government named us, But, after many, many years of those names just sticking with us, it's just how do we change that, stereotype, since it's already been placed there? With me, people would come up to me and say, oh, you're Native American, and I would answer yes, but I also would say I'm from the Navajo tribe. I'm Navajo, you know, and some people would like ask me like, would you rather be called Native American or Navajo? And I would always say Navajo, because that identifies me as a, you know, as a person, instead of categorizing, you know, one whole group.
I guess one thing that recently happened to me that made me feel uncomfortable was my daughter, she was having her class pictures coming up soon, and this was like about a month ago. It just hurt the class, not individual. So I was just like, okay, I need to get her bangs cut. So we went to the hair cutting place in Walmart, and I never go there, but I was like, well, it's just her bangs. So we went over there, and that lady's like, should we cut her hair? And I'm like, no, I just want her bangs trimmed, because my daughter has really long hair to her waist. And that lady, she was a white lady, and she's just like, well, it looks like she needs a trim. And I'm like, no, she likes her hair long. We just want her bangs trimmed. She's like, oh yeah, she wants to look like Pocahontas. And like I was just kind of like, didn't say anything. And I was like, should I bring that up, should I bring it up to her and say something to her that I didn't like the way she said that about my daughter? But at the same time, when I was looking at her, she was like all happy. She's like, wow, she's really beautiful. I like her hair. And she didn't even know she made a stereotype to my daughter. And I was just like, okay, well, maybe now's not the time to bring it up. Maybe if my daughter wasn't here and she said it about me, then I would feel more comfortable bringing it up to her. But I didn't. I just let it go. But looking back on it, I was like, maybe I could have said something. Maybe I could have just brought it up and like, you know, I don't really agree with that. That's not a good term to use, especially towards my daughter. And if you could just please not say that again, or I don't know, just something like that, you know.
Oh, and other people like supposedly giving me some Indian names that they start calling me. So he's like soaring eagle or sprinting rabbit or some sort of weird animal action name. I don't know how to explain it. It's just some of it's hilarious, some of it's not, and some of it just goes too far and gets really uncomfortable. But yeah, there's some jokes that are kind of insulting, of course, yeah. I have this friend, I mean, he speaks his mind a lot. Personally, some of my other friends call him a big redneck, but he's kind of funny. I mean, his jokes are fairly mean, but I still laugh at them. It's just like, man, in my mind, I'm just more saying, you fool, you don't know nothing. But there's some jokes that are insulting, but how I put it is, I just rub it off, rub some dirt on it, and say, okay, if that's what you think. But I could tell you one, and then I just try to explain, well, you're kind of wrong in that way. I mean, if the joke goes too far, I kind of will say it to let them know that that's not right.
One misconception is definitely the relationship to Native tribes and the government, and learning that the government has done so much for the Native community.
There's an assumption that all Native people get money, that every month we get checks, and that's not true. As Navajo people, we don't get monthly checks. Like, I know certain tribes do, but we don't, and we get stereotyped as having a lot of money, and we don't have money. My mom's a single parent, and she works 2 jobs, and we don't live in like a big old mansion or anything like that. We live in a hogan. We just barely got running water like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And before that, we used to haul our water, and it was kind of hard. We had to limit our shower. And I realized how water is important and how we need it and we shouldn't waste water. But I think for non-natives to know that as not native people, it's hard for us in this modern society, and we have words like redskins that hurt us. They say that they're honoring us by using the name Redskins, but really it's not. Redskins is a derogatory name. Using mascots for like their sport, their mascots is not right either. I think just know the history, know why we have so many problems. The history of assimilation and colonization is what really hurt us as Native people. And we have so many issues that we're dealing with that it's sad. Some of them are really sad, but as Native people, it just makes us stronger.
You know, sometimes, because Native, like, if you have Native American friends, like, you can joke around, like, with, I don't know, like, different jokes you can joke around. But with non-natives, like I said, like, they don't understand it. But, like, they would always ask questions about my culture, and I would answer them. But for me, it was just too much information to give. But at the same time, it's kind of like a education for them to know about our culture.
Well, when my friend goes too far, I kind of just say, okay, stop right there, you're going a little bit too far. And he respects it. He's one of my friends, he respects it. I mean, he jokes around a lot, but there's times when he goes a little too far, and I say it to him, saying just, hey man, you went too far, or don't say that again. And he's like, okay. So that's what I do. Others, more, I would say, just at first be calm and let them know that you don't like that. If they don't, some people will probably respect that. Other people will probably like trying to push it. And to that, I don't know. Personally, I'll be really upset if that person keeps pushing that line. But at first, I'll just say, just let them know that that's uncomfortable for you. If they keep pushing it, well, I'll say walk away. But that's just, personally, I probably wouldn't walk away. That's just me, though.
Words can hurt people. They're like arrows. So if you say something to somebody, it's better that you think about what you say before you say it, basically. Because you can say, oh, I hate you, and that person will get hurt by it.
Well, see, the classes I would go, the only thing my strategy for me is like to want to be able to understand, and to understand the course will be like talking with other students and be able to talk with them and be able for me to understand what is going on in the classroom. And even though if it's native, non-native students, I would definitely try my best to actually communicate well with them, and also if I'm like comfortable and they're comfortable, I would definitely I would definitely tell a joke or something. Tell a joke where I would try to be comfortable with them, try to be comfortable, and they'll be comfortable with me, and yeah, like we're just sometimes we just ask questions where we're learning from each other, and we're helping each other in class too. So yeah, sometimes there's certain type of people, mostly like several females, non-natives, and other male non-natives, but it was pretty cool. Yeah. I think the one thing I would definitely like it to actually tell people about my culture, and like sometimes I won't really go in depth, but I would just tell like a brief description of what of just like to tell people who I am and also where I came from and what I do and what I still do in my culture, and also I would just definitely give them like a brief description of what I do.
If they have any questions, it's okay to ask, because I know a lot of the reasons why people are separated is because they don't ask the questions that they have.
How would you like me to approach you in your culture? How would, or what kind of things would you like to do with a white person? Do you even want a white person coming up and trying to get involved in your life? And then I know I personally love it when new people come up and introduce themselves randomly, so I just want to extend a welcome to come up and have them introduce themselves to me.
I think any non-native student that feels uncomfortable or nervous talking to a native student, I'll just tell them that it's just another person. So just talk to them like they're a person. Don't get caught up in our differences. That's just, some people are shy when they meet any person or anything like that, so it's pretty much the same with that. Just gotta be outgoing and just talk to people.
All cultures are, they're all different. You cannot compare them. They're not, something that might be rude in your culture is not necessarily rude in another culture. And so if someone does that, you shouldn't, if someone does something rude, like, you shouldn't, like, jump on them and,
It's learning how to accept people, and yet at the same time you're learning a little bit about their culture. For example, is it proper for a man and a woman, a male and a female, to shake hands when they first meet? Different cultures would say, somebody might say no, another one would say, why not? And already you have some interesting dynamics going on. One says yes, the other says no. And there's an opportunity to say, no, in our culture we do this, we do that. This one says, well, in our culture it's considered proper and it's polite when you do these kinds of things. And the more they talk about things like that, the more understanding there is.
This is the biggest thing. We always use this idea in adventure education, this idea of comfort zones. So getting outside your comfort zone, you're never going to have a new experience. You're never going to grow as an individual if you don't go outside your comfort zone, if you don't apply yourself to new situations. So if you're constantly just here and okay with being here because it's safe, because it's familiar, that's not going to help you as an individual grow. So just being completely open to the experience. Don't close yourself off just because it's something new and it's something different. So when trying to understand a different culture, the biggest thing is just to be open to it. The big thing that I always try and stress on is that you have your own, like I said, your own perceptions of who you are as a person, and that's been built on by a lot of other things. But what my mom said, she said, don't try and understand, just be there, just listen, just watch. Like, don't try and understand it, because when you're trying to understand a new experience or you're trying to understand a new culture, you're applying your past experience onto that. So don't try and understand, just experience it. So listen, feel, just take it all in, and then that as itself will kind of work itself into your understanding. You're never ever going to fully understand how another person grew up. You're never ever fully going to understand how they were raised, what their culture was, but you understand some things from your perspective.
It's probably uncomfortable for them too. So, and if you try and fail, it's still, it might not be the best experience that you've had, but at least it gives you experience. And it doesn't, just because you have one failed relationship or one failed attempt at a relationship, it doesn't mean that every time you try, you'll be shot down. So just keep trying. That sounds really cheesy, but but this is college. A lot of people just really want to have friends and really want to just explore themselves. So
アメリカの人はその自分らしさっていうか、そのみんな違うけど別にみんな一緒じゃなくてよくて、それぞれみんないいところを持ってて、でそのみんなそれぞれが自分のことをすごい誇りに思ってて、住んでるところも、自分自身も家族も、そういうところはすごい日本にないいところだなと思います。なんか日本だと違ったらあいつなんか違うみたいな感じで、違ってるのは悪いことみたいな印象っていうか、そういう風な社会的風潮があるとこっちに来て本当に強く思って。
All the Native American students that I've met in school have been super nice and super friendly. I do wish I learned more about their culture and history. And yeah, I hope one day we can be friends.
One of my really good friends here that I'm actually going to be moving into an apartment with is Native American, and she is from New Mexico. And then she has a friend who's from Alaska that I talk to frequently.
So in a room of 4 people, I'll be living with 3 other Native Americans and myself. Yeah, 4. Yeah. Question.
Are you nervous about the cultural difference?
Oh, yeah, just probably a little bit, just because of some things that could happen, even though I don't believe in their culture, just some of the stuff that they have told me about what they can't do, it kind of makes me wonder, oh, can I do that, even though I don't believe in their culture, will that happen to me, even though, so it's kind of sketchy, or not sketchy, but scary in a way, because some scary stuff I've heard happens. So yeah, but other than that, I'm not really worried. So yeah, it'll be fun. They're cool people. Yeah.
For me, maybe it was kind of weird at the beginning because I'm from Italy and it's something like the most Catholic country in the world. We have the Pope, we have Rome, everyone is Catholic there. So coming here, it was actually the first time in my life that I've traveled before just a little bit on vacation like everyone does. But coming here and living with people here who are so different, it was very weird at the beginning because it was actually the first time that I realized, oh, there was something like in the textbook talking about Bible or Jesus or like that, and it was actually the only one in that class knowing exactly what it was talking about, because nobody here has that idea, or there's not a lot of people were Catholic or Christian, and it was kind of the same with that class because I maybe 5-6 persons, people were not native, so I was kind of it was weird at the beginning, but it was just at the beginning. Then you get used to that. You change your mind, you open your mind, and realize that okay, it's not that I'm wrong, I'm just different. People are different, so I just realized that coming here helped me a lot for that.
But that makes diversity and the world beautiful.
That's why the world is beautiful.
So for my Native American history class, we go over a lot of sensitive topics such as genocide, massacres, the Indian Wars. And so sometimes, those subjects tend to be emotional, students might get upset. So I tend to be sensitive around those issues. and respectful to both the Native students and the non-Native students.
Well, I made a lot of non-Native friends here, and I see them all over town. Like when I was out passing out flyers for our event, I kept running into old classmates and other people who were non-Native around, and say hi to them. They're just like my friends who are natives.
I think it's very important for everybody to work together. No matter what nation, what skin color. I think mainstream society is wanting to go green, and as Native people, we always saw the world as going green, not using chemicals, not using anything like that to harm yourself or other humans. But I think we have to understand each other. Working together is the only way that we can move forward. And hating, me as Native, hating a white person is not really what I'm all about. It's not really gonna help. And I know that there's Natives out there that have that aggression. There's also non-Natives out there that hate Natives. It's not getting anywhere. Racism is not really, it's just making more problems. And I think we all need to come together and work together.
By understanding other cultures and what they go through, maybe it'll help the human race in general. Because I believe there's so much distance, even though we live next to each other. Like, we could be neighbors and we don't know anything about them.
Just because people look different, you know, there isn't really that doesn't really mean that we're that much different.
Because it's when you make connections with people, all that stuff all falls away. And the reason you're friends with people is because of the way you think, the things you're interested in, that kind of stuff, not how they look or how they dress or any of that. So
I've never encountered anything that made me feel like I'm a minority, you know? It's just like, I mean, I know like I'm black and there's a lot of white people, but I've never it's not like something I feel every day when I walk on campus. I'm like, ooh, I'm the only black person walking around or something. Yeah, but I've never really experienced it.
Most people, you can strike up a conversation about anything and talk for hours, and not even mention that you're Navajo or a Native American.
I'll just say yes. He's Japanese. Have you felt the cultural difference with him? Yeah, a lot on everything. It's really difficult sometimes. The way we do things, some things are totally different. So sometimes we have like miscommunication and misunderstanding, and sometimes it's really frustrating. So, but in the beginning, I didn't think that it would be really this hard, but after 7 months, it is really hard. He is somewhat like me in some ways around a group of people, or a lot of people. We are known to be the quiet person, this person who doesn't speak that much. And being in a large group of people sometimes makes us both uncomfortable, but he's maybe a really, really, really nice person compared to me sometimes. Yeah, in that way, he's, I think, really nice, and sometimes I can't be so nice, but so I really like the person he is.
So even though sometimes there's the culture difference and misunderstandings.
And how did you guys meet each other?
So we are both music students. I play piano and she plays clarinet, and we took we know each other in the music department, and then we took music history together. And, yeah.
Have you ever had any confusion between
Yes.
each other, like culturally?
Yes.
What's that like?
Like sometimes, for example, sometimes she'll look at my phone, look some of the websites I go to, some Chinese websites. There's like some stuff going on, and then
Yeah.
like pictures and shit, what's that? And then I'll just be like, it's hard to explain, based on the context. Also, perhaps sometimes I eat different foods, we like different types of foods and stuff.
How about Marty?
Well, I'm Native American, like, so I'm still pretty American, I guess. But nothing really too much. I mean, sometimes he's very specific about things, and I'm not completely used to that. So it's a little different, but I wouldn't say it's something that's difficult. Well, for Christmas, I got him chocolate and a hat. So, I guess I didn't really try to put, like, oh, he's from China, I should get something Chinese for him. So, I didn't really think of, like, a cultural difference. So, I just kind of went with, like, well, what does he like? He likes chocolate, I'll get him that. He says he wanted a hat, so I'll get him a hat. So, that's kind of how it went. I didn't really try to put that in there. If it came to the mind, then yeah, maybe I would have, but it didn't, obviously.
The only way I think is how you can get to know the culture is actually go and visit or where those people are from, because that person is not like a exact representative of those people. He's only a small portion.
I spent the last 11 months in Taipei, Taiwan, so I also speak Mandarin Chinese. They call that culture shock, and it definitely hit me hard. I remember, like, every morning I would go out and see Chinese characters everywhere, and I would just want to, like, bow my head and go back inside because I just, like, got a headache from it. And then, I was treated like a baby because I didn't know anything about the culture. I was a Taiwanese baby for a year, and so I had to learn the language and learn the culture and what kinds of things are expected and what kinds of taboos in society existed. So it was definitely an educational experience.
First, I would say read up on your history. Movies do not count. Read up on your history. Next, look for a reservation and ask questions there. Some people will be helpful to answer questions that a lot of people have. And not to mention, reservations don't get much visitors, so it'd be good to have like certain people just come and talk to them.
A few years ago, I went to an Indian reservation for specifically what they called Humpalaja Camp, and I was one of the fire tenders with my cousin, and it was a super neat experience, super eye-opening, just seeing that level of culture and people gathered for the same reason of practicing this very, honestly, kind of non-white spirituality. And if I could have a chance to relive that experience or find one like it, but be more proactive in helping some of the more upsetting things that I saw, that would be awesome.
I think the idea of people's learning, I think it also is dependent on, I guess, the ease of access of the information. I think we're in a time right now where we want to spend as little time as possible finishing a task. So news articles have become, increasingly smaller through time, and I feel like if there was some kind of ease of access for other people to learn Native American history and culture, I feel like that would be a start, just to make it easier for students to, or even just talking with other Native American people. I think for me, the best way I would want to learn is to have a personal connection with someone. I would much rather talk and have a conversation with someone as opposed to reading something out of a text. Because when you read something, you can't really create that connection with it, but if you're actually listening to someone tell stories of their ancestors and their current culture, I think that would be the best way.
I think the motivation would come with gaining friends and close acquaintances.
How do you make friends usually?
Let's see. Usually I just be, that's a good question. Make friends. I would try to be very honest about my hobbies and my activities and what I enjoy, and then the people that also enjoy those would come to me, and I think at least that's how I make friends.
I like playing tennis or reading a book or watching a lot of movies.
When I got time, let's see. I'm an athletic guy, so playing sports, any sport, go outside, play catch, football with my brothers, go play basketball, go shoot around, go running, hunting. Back home, depends on the season, we'll hunt deer, rabbits, ducks. There's this little bird like a quail, it has like a little feather sticking out the top of his head, we'll hunt that.
I like going to concerts, taking a drive, and basically, well, I would say the nightclub is part of my fun as well. We always have fun in there, but we're learning about our culture and our traditions, and it's always fun. Sometimes I like going, just hanging out with my boyfriend too. It's pretty fun.
I like to play outside. I like to write, hike, kayak, ski. I love to ski and make art. And my two biggest passions are dancing and yoga.
I love to be outdoors. I love to be indoors. I like to be around people, but then I also like to be by myself, so it's just kind of everything. I really like to dance. I like to rock climb. I just kind of got into that at Fort Lewis. I went out and bought myself a pair of really expensive climbing shoes to make sure that I would use them and say you're gonna climb, so take your climbing shoes. I like to be outside, so the bike, hike, anything like that, just to get out there, because this is such a nice place.
The thing that you realize too is okay, there's people who are different or have different points of views about life or have different history or culture, but at the end, we are all people, and we all want to learn and want to meet people and want to have fun and we all have feelings, so we are different but we are the same.